Mistra Financial Systems, MFS, was set up in 2016 as an interdisciplinary research program with the goal to assess how the financial sector can contribute to sustainable development. It's a very broad program that basically covers 5 different work streams that discuss and do research on a wide range of topics and questions, which include aspects of the system overall, including, for example, special characteristics of sustainable markets, but it also focuses on more micro-oriented dimensions that build on established finance theories and, for example, methods in asset valuation. The various work streams of MFS also look into incentives and regulatory frameworks that could potentially correct market failures in the financial sector to basically contribute to the discussion of how to move faster and more efficiently towards sustainable markets. It is important to emphasize that MFS does not have a focus on crisis situations. Instead, it focuses on the transition to sustainable markets in a broad and general sense. Thus, there are no research streams or projects dedicated to studying crisis situations or recoveries from a crisis like the COVID-19 pandemic. Nevertheless, there are still several research outputs from MFS that I think are informative and relevant for the discussion of a green recovery from the crisis. The project that is most closely related to this question and that I would like to emphasize in this context is done by a workstream called Practical Tools and is led by Professor Andreas Höppner, who's working for the University College Dublin and also part of the European Union's technical expert group on sustainable finance. In that project, they analyze bond purchases by the ECB during the COVID-19 crisis and evaluate how green the ECB is in its purchase programs. The goal of these purchase programs is to help firms recover from the crisis. And the evidence that Andreas and his team put together shows that with respect to greenhouse gas emissions, those support programs are actually not very green and end up providing capital to brown firms and brown industries. I think the most important step is that decision makers agree and commit to taking sustainability dimensions into consideration when designing stimulus packages. We have to be careful that the crisis is not used as an excuse to revert and undo some of the positive achievements regarding sustainability that were realized in recent years. At the same point, it is important that stimulus packages are also launched quickly and efficiently, and that people are helped by bringing the economy back on track. Thus, the key challenge is to find the right balance between stimulus and sustainability. And that seems to be, in my opinion, the most crucial point right now. I think governments, as well as supranational bodies, such as particularly the European Union Commission, need to act and need to commit first and quickly. And they need to focus on ensuring that sustainability aspects are included and are presented in the recovery. I think this is true even beyond the current crisis situation. The shift towards more sustainable markets has to be supported, driven, and led by decision makers at the highest possible level. I think it is too early to say what the effect is going to be in 2030. Obviously, this is a tricky question, but I think it's very hard to answer because we don't know how the pandemic will play out. And I think it all depends on sort of this immediate future. So it depends on whether there's going to be a vaccination or a cure in the near future. This might be the case, but I'm maybe not as optimistic as other people. If that is not the case, then I think things will become much more complicated in the upcoming fall and winter. If further lockdowns have to be enacted, the negative consequences for economies, but also for other dimensions of our lives are hard to assess and will most likely strongly amplify the current negative effects. How this will then spill over to the transition towards more sustainable markets is hard to assess, but most likely it will not represent a boost to it.